A very good afternoon to everyone present in today's session. I'm Kulla Krishna Madhavi, and we will be walking through Unit 5 of International Marketing Communication. So, fundamentally, to start with the objectives, we'll be looking at the different components of communication mix, the role of advertising in international marketing, examining the different regulations which guide advertising, and finally, also understand the different types of advertising media. In terms of the structure for today's session, it will be introduction followed by communication mix, the role of advertising, patterns of advertising expenditure, advertising and regulations, advertising media, standardized international advertising, global advertising, and then we'll have a conclusion to the session. So let us first start with introduction. The purpose of promotion is both to communicate with buyers and to influence them. So why are we looking at promotion? It is not only from as a company's point of view, it is primarily from a buyer's perspective. How does the information about our product or services reach the buyer, and how do we influence them to make that purchase? For that, we need effective promotion. This requires an understanding of the process of persuasion and how this process is affected by environmental factors. The potential buyer may not only receive the desired information, should also be able to comprehend that information. So, for that, we need to understand the communication mix that is available for us. To communicate with and influence customers, several promotional tools are available. So, advertising is usually the most visible component of promotion, but it is not the only component. The promotion mix also consists of other factors. What are they? Like personal selling, publicity, and sales promotion. So let us look at the other three factors also in brief. So what is personal selling? According to American Marketing Association, personal selling is an oral presentation in a conversation with one or more prospective purchasers for the purpose of making sales. So in personal selling, which is also known as salesmanship, it is used at every distribution level, whether it is at a retail outlet or it is at a C&F agency or it is at higher up, or even if we consider both offline and online marketing. So the cost of personal selling, as we know, is very high because it means one to one from a salesperson to a potential customer's point of view. So while the high cost is an imperative factor here, we also need to understand that personal selling has certain advantages also. For example, if it is an industrial buying or large volume purchase where there is a lot of currency or a lot of money transaction taking place, it definitely justifies having personal attention as far as a potential customer is concerned. So, personal selling has also proven to be effective when the market is concentrated or when a salesperson must develop a measure of confidence in the customer for the purchase. So, the effectiveness is a function of product type. So, while we say it's a function of product type, we also need to understand that it is also based on the volume of business. We'll talk about this in more depth. But such products usually require a demonstration. They are custom made or fitted to an individual's needs or involve trade ins. For example, if you are looking at selling an IT software, unless we are able to give a demo of the app to the potential customer, they may not be able to understand. If it is a simple app which can run on, say, your mobile, then a deep sales team is not required. However, if it is related to, say, a company's enterprise resource planning or ERP, then definitely that affects the entire company. So the potential customer will definitely want to be interested in seeing a proper demo of the product because it involves a large amount of investment into the software. So that is what we mean by product wise. In the first case, we were talking about B2C, that is business to customer, whereas in the second case, we are talking B2B, that is business to business or business to enterprise or business to government, where more intervention is required directly from a salesperson. The next one is in terms of publicity. Publicity is a non personal stimulation of demand that is not paid for by a sponsor, which has released news to the media publicity. It offers several advantages. What are they? One is it is a low cost. Second, the material presented is not recognized as paid advertising per se. It occurs in an editorial setting. So it seems to have the approval, though it is very, very implicit. It seems to have been approved by the editorial staff and also generated probably by them. So, what is the advantage of this publicity? It has more credibility. So, consumers tend to accept it as news information rather than as advertising. Well, and when we go to the third option, that is a sales promotion as an activity, this technique is varied and numerous. It contains multiple options to reach out to a potential customer. It could be in the form of coupons, sweepstakes, games, money refund offers, and trading stamps. Uh, the company may decide to use one of these, or it might decide to use multiple techniques of sales promotion simultaneously within the same campaign to reach the same set of potential customers. So, the point that we need to understand is that the sales promotion process per se, this is temporary in nature. It's not self-sustaining. Now, if you create an ad, it runs for a specific period in time. Maybe for a month, it may be for a quarter, maybe for a year or longer. Same goes with personal selling and publicity, where people are also looking at long term activities. Whereas in sales promotion, it is usually done when a product is first introduced in the market to gain that advantage, so that more customers opt in for this. Today, if you are seeing an ad of, say, Billa Opus, they emphasize, because they have entered only recently into the market, they're using advertisements to promote their product, and they're trying to say that tried and tested in the past, this old formats, but now we have a new option, so you need to consider this. While that is an advertising, we also, supplementing the ads with things like some sales promotion materials. It could be like, a small sample. So definitely sales promotion is used to gain that extra competitive advantage. So first, let us look at advertising. So what is advertising? This is not only, emphasizing the production and distribution efficiency. There is usually, attack advertising. It is considered as a wasteful practice because the primary motive of advertising is to create unnecessary wants. Unfortunately, that is true. So I don't need a watch. But then, how if somebody is selling a luxury watch, a premium brand, how will they reach out to you? By creating an unnecessary want, where I'm trying to have that advantage of carrying a premium watch on my wrist and creating a more in me. It is not fundamental. It is an aspirational want. That is an unnecessary want. However, advertising also serves a very useful country which economic development. Fundamentally, what the any good product does is it creates. Okay, Russian customers, as an example, they were found to exhibit more favorable attitudes towards advertising in general, whereas American respondents felt that advertising related in greater negative social effects. This is very, very interesting in terms of study, because if you see in terms of reality, it's the other way around. The US is driving products. Since the 1950s, China has prohibited foreigners from advertising inappropriate. But in 1980s, China changed its policy and regulations in place. Now, all media are available for advertising, whether it's in the form of billboards, department stores, display cases, telephone books, newspapers, magazines, journals, etc. So, what are the patterns of advertising expenditures? In one study, advertising to sales ratio varied across 15 countries. Ranging from 0.95 for Yugoslavia to 7.62 for Australia. So, what this fundamentally means is that the higher the ratio, that means the higher the conversion. So the advertising is being more fruitful when there is a higher sale that is happening as a base for the or as an outcome for the advertising that the company is doing. So though these ratios were not related to population size, number of directly competing brands within the firm or number of directly competing brands outside the firm, the advertising expenditures, as we know, they vary from industry to industry. For example, Mars Chocolates allocates 5% of the company's total sales to advertising, whereas manufacturers of dolls and stuffed toys may maintain an advertising to sales ratio of more than 15%. That means they're expecting a higher conversion rate. On other hand, manufacturers of certain non-consumer goods, that is industrial machinery and equipment and agricultural chemicals, they do not spend or advertise very much because for them, the sales actually does not happen primarily because of advertising, but it is more of personal selling. So, according to well publicized advisor models, ADVISOR, the size of an advertising budget is a function of various parameters. So, what are they? First and foremost, number of users and other participants, customer concentration, fraction of sales made to order, which stage in life cycle, and product plans. The size of a marketing budget is a function of prospect customer attitude differences, proportion of direct sales, and product complexity. It has to be pointed out that the importance of particular predictable variables is not uniform across countries. So, advertising and regulation. So, advertising can be affected by local regulations in several ways. German laws, for example, they regulate TV advertising content and limit advertising on the national TV channels to just around 20 minutes a day. So what happens is here advertisers have to switch from state-run TV to private channels. If you take in terms of Belgium, they prohibit the use of electricity for advertising purposes between midnight and 8 a.m. So that means that you cannot advertise online or through electronic media during that particular period. Whereas Greece and South Korea have very interesting ban in the erection of new signs or signboards, as we know more popularly. So different countries have different formats. In England, the Committee of Advertising Practice has issued new codes which require all non-broadcast advertisements to be legal, decent, honest, and truthful. So here, for example, no medium can be used to advertise alcoholic drinks if more than 25% of the audience is aged less than 18 years. Children should not be encouraged to eat or drink at bedtime or to replace main meal with confectionery or snack foods. Regarding motor vehicles, also there are factors like speed and actual acceleration which are considered. So the legitimacy of comparative advertising has not been fully settled in many countries. So certain products are banned. Like for example, in India, if you see alcohol as such is banned on any electronic media or even print media. So you will not find a direct ad for alcohol or tobacco. So RJ Reynolds attempted to circumvent Norway's ban on cigarette advertising by advertising camel boots instead. And we often see that happening in India as well, where instead of, say, an alcohol brand advertising the alcohol content, what they do is they come up with the promotion of mineral water as an alternate. So the advertisement used in the case of Camel, the same model, trademark, and lettering as the word Camel in cigarettes. So after a lot of protests, this advertisement was eventually withdrawn. So advertising media. So in international advertising, India, when the advertising campaign is planned directly in the country. To advertise overseas, a company must determine the availability or unavailability of advertising media. We have seen some examples above. So, let us look at television as an option. So, commercial TV time is usually extremely difficult to buy overseas because there are certain restrictions that are impacting them. So, a few countries, like we have seen earlier, they have only a few TV channels which may not schedule daytime television or late night programs. So that means automatically the number of operations for broadcasting ads is reduced. So in Germany, advertising on television is only permitted between 6:15 and 8 p.m., excepting Sundays and holidays. So that means on an average, the available advertising time is just 20 minutes, which is far less than, say, any countries like, say, India, where we have, if you hear ads on radio, you will hear them occupying probably around 21 hours of 24-hour operation because they're not highly regulated. So the commercial minutes that we have been talking about in terms of Germany is also equally applicable to, say, Switzerland. So radio. What is radio? Radio is no longer king of the media in the USA, but in many countries it still remains a primary medium of communication across the country. So in Mexico, for example, radio provides a coverage of 83%, which is huge. And radio is popular for several reasons. One, it's inexpensive. Second, it's affordable by most. It's a free medium for listeners. Listeners are not charged for listening to the radio, particularly most of the FMs are free, and government options are also free. And then literacy or lack of literacy is not a restriction in the case of a radio. Also, radio is more entertaining, it's up to date, and it's very portable. So FM stations have therefore become more popular because of this. The other one is newspapers. In terms of newspapers, all urban areas of the world, they have access to daily newspapers. So this problem of it can be too many newspapers or too few newspapers, but advertising on in newspapers is very, very common. So many countries have, in addition to their local languages, English language newspapers also. So, like in India, you see, for example, newspapers in all regional languages, in addition to English and Hindi. So magazines. So definitely, while newspapers have certain advantages, they also have certain disadvantages in terms of, certain affluence is required, a certain amount of literacy is required. And when we move to magazines, the same parameters carry there as well. So in the US, you have so many different magazines. But that's true for many other countries where you have different magazines catering to different interests of potential consumers. So advertisers direct their campaign primarily to obtain reach. That is the total number of unduplicated individuals exposed to a particular media vehicle at least once during a specific time period. That is the definition of reach. Or the frequency. So frequency is the intensity or the number of times within a specific period that a prospect is exposed to the message. So reach is about how many individuals are being reached out in a specific period of time by a particular message. And frequency talks about the number of times within a specified period that a prospect is exposed to the same medium. Now, in many instances, we consider both reach and frequency. In Brazil, for example, there are very few magazines, and people read all three or four of them. So there is a lot of duplication that may happen here because the potential consumers are reading the same content or promotional effort across multiple magazines. Whereas if we were to take a situation like, say, what is prevailing, say, in a country like India, you'll find that we have so many different magazines catering to many, many different types of customers, whether it's Business Week, News Week, whether we are talking in terms of India Today, The Week. There are so many of them. So each of them, there is a different segment who actually caters to those magazines. And here we are talking of non-technical magazines, but there are also technical and industrial products. So magazines for them are also very, very effective. Then we talk about direct mail. So confusion arises when such terms as direct mail, direct advertising, direct marketing, and mail order are discussed. So it's important to understand that direct marketing is a very, very broad term. So, direct marketing usually means, as per the definition, Direct Marketing Association identifies it as the total of activities by which products and services are offered to market segments in one or more media for informational purposes or to solicit a direct response from a present or prospective customer or contributor through three ways, that is by mail, telephone, or personal visit. So direct marketers can promote their products through all advertising media. They can solicit orders by making announcements on television or in magazines, usually with coupons or order forms. So marketers usually rely on direct advertising in media because it has certain advantages. So it consists of direct mailing and all forms of print advertisements, which are distributed directly to prospects through a variety of methods. So they prefer this in some instances because it helps out to reach out to the potential customer directly. It also gives uh, a preview in terms of whether your information has reached the potential customer or not. So that definitely there is a certain advantage that it has. Direct mail is also one of a kind of direct advertising medium because it generally the advertising media or promotional method of direct marketing it entails the use of direct mail, but that is not a limitation. It is not only limited to direct mail, it is also direct marketing. With regard to ordering, buyers can place orders by telephones, often with a toll free number, through a personal visit or by mail. An order that is sent in by mail and fulfilled by mail direct delivery is called a mail order. Mail order is not a medium, rather, it is only one of several means. So next one we can look at is in terms of outdoor. Outdoor advertising includes posters, billboards, painted bulletins, roadside and store signs, electric spectaculars, etc. That is the large, electric hoardings that we see with special lights or animation, or there's movement. They are both stationary and or static and dynamic billboards that we see now very often. Times Square is a great example where we see billboards with movement. So, when using outdoor advertising, certain rules should be followed. So, illustration should be large, words should be kept to a minimum. A rule of thumb is to say what must be said and not what can be said. So this is very, very subtle. What must be said, or what I have to say to the potential customer so they understand what my product is about. What can be said? I can say a lot of things about my product or service, but is it necessary to convey all of them? For attracting a potential customer, that is a question that we must consider. So simple contrasting colors can be used, like white on black or red. Usually works well. The right typeface is also crucial because certain typefaces are very, very difficult to read. So internet is another example where, unlike billboards or outdoor advertising, it is far cheaper. And that is why it has also gained a worldwide attention. And it's also instantaneous. That means the minute I create content and upload, it is available worldwide for anyone to access and understand. So, internet definitely requires certain amount of global planning, and cultural dimension must be considered because if you're talking in terms of brands like Coca-Cola, they have local websites because um, they are trying to contact and reach out to the local consumers. Next one is screen, that is cinema. I'm sorry, just give me a minute, please. Extremely sorry about that. Just a sec and we'll be back. Just a sec, please. Yeah, almost there. Yeah. So we were talking in terms of internet, and further we went into cinema, and we said how cinema has certain advantages. It has an impact of the outdoor advertising without the drawback of being stationary, because any advertisement in cinema is lively, and it is also attached to the film or the promotions or short teasers. So it has that commercial factor, but it is also reaching out to consumers who are more receptive to watching your ads on screen, because they are already in the frame of mind where they are watching films. So directories are books that provide listing of people, professions, and institutions. So what does this do? Directories, they are usually given away free of charge. Like for example, many industrial areas, they have their own directories, or say real estate, they create a trade directory. So these or hotels have trade directories. So here it consists of maybe local exporters, their advertisements, which are also incorporated into these directories. So somebody who is flipping through the directory for a particular trade or business may also come across relevant ads for that particular business. For example, if I'm looking for auto parts and I see some ads related to auto parts in a automobile trade directory, then the likelihood of me purchasing from that company is higher. Another example we see is in-flight magazines, where it is common to carry ads of various products. But take it back to the industrial scenario, it like a same thing, but in only focusing on that particular business, like automobiles. And then you see various ads related to that automobile vertical. So, rural media. So, in marketing to developing countries, marketers must understand the use of rural media. So, mobile units, for example, may be sent to areas where they lack access to mass media. And such media can play, certain recorded music or advertising message or amplifiers or loudspeakers attached to the vehicles, rooftops, and attract the rural audience. Another factor is stadiums. Stadium advertising is also appropriate, particularly if you see things like soccer games or cricket, you see, or tennis. You see so much of advertising that happens in stadiums. Other media that we can also consider, which are considerably less expensive, are things like pens, calendars, letter openers, small takeaways which are given to the customer as a keepsake. So next one is in terms of media mix. So media mix talks about not one using one single advertising medium, but using a number of them, and so that you are able to cater to more number of countries and more number of have a wider range of products or product variations. So there's also a frequency and impact. So standardized international advertising, same way everywhere in the world. The controversy of this, standardization or globalization is slightly to be considered here. For example, what happens is uh, there is a lot of misunderstanding in terms of what is standardization. So first, let us understand what is standardization. Standardized advertisement or usually means the same thing in terms of being catered to internationally. So this requires, a certain advantage and disadvantage. What is advantage? Wherever you go in any part of the world, you see the same copy or illustration, and the recall is higher because you're able to immediately place the ad. However, the disadvantage is also that because of standardization, you are not able to localize your ads to that particular market and understand the cultural ethos of that particular local market. So global advertising. So global advertising primarily talks of localization, but it can also be myopic. Why do we say it's myopic? Because when we're talking about standardization, so a campaign is fundamentally designed for one market, that is home country, but the same is being exposed to other markets regardless of justification, regardless of what the country that we are reaching out to, the country that where we are promoting our products beyond our country shows is looking at. If you see Levi Strauss, they switched from all localized advertisements to a pattern advertising strategy. So they provide the broad outlines, but not the details of the campaign. So what is happening is they have made a certain standardization in terms of the product, uh, broad outlines. So that means the setting, the kind of model, the kind of clothes, the kind of messaging, all that is standardized. However, they may change the model or they may change the words to suit the local language or the local culture. Coca-Cola, for example, has a General Assembly campaign, which has become very popular because of its certain localization. So here what happens is they have portrayed 1,000 children singing the praise of Coke. So there are these factors which sometimes go overboard, but in general standardization has, as we discussed, both advantages and disadvantages. So in order for an ad to be truly considered global, it should have certain factors. What are they? It should be visual, it should have universal appeal, it should be adaptation ready to adapt to the local market. There should be some standardization, but also a provision for localization. It assumes both homogeneity and heterogeneity, that is, similarity of the ads and also the heterogeneity of the potential buyers. It combines efficiency with effectiveness, and it's simultaneously global and local. So, with this, we come to the end of today's session. So, in case you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll be happy to take up the next unit in next session. So, any questions from your end? Okay. So, thank you so much, and it's good to have you all with me today. And I look forward to catching up very soon with you all in the next session. Thank you.